Hello, I'm Alex Dahm. I'm here at Bauma 2025 in Munich, Germany, and I'm talking to Aaron Ravenscroft, who's the Manitowoc Company CEO and President. Thank you for your time, Aaron. It's great to have you here. And I'm very interested to know what you think of the show, what your impressions are, what customers you're seeing, and how is the feeling among them. And
Yeah, I mean, the show has been fantastic. The show is always a great opportunity to spend time with folks that we have long-term relationships with. It's been fun to celebrate. We've had some special maybe retirements. As you know, crane people don't normally leave the business forever, but maybe change roles. So that's been really exciting. We had the opportunity to celebrate Nabil Zawari's 50 years of Poton. So, I mean, he started in the business in 1975. Which is pretty remarkable, and he's had a heck of a run, so that's been fun. In terms of the products, really pleased with the feedback on the all-terrain cranes. If I think back to my first Bauma in 2016, we had some pretty tough meetings around the quality of our equipment, but really, really pleased with the feedback from folks and the compliments. So 180-degree change from where we were a few years ago. In terms of the tower crane business, the team has done a great job of continuously pumping out new products. We're working hard to meet all the new EN standards in Europe, and Towers and Moles have found some different ways to also take that challenge and make it an opportunity. So overall, very, very positive about the Bauma experience. It's a little unfortunate that it's been weighted down or watered down with the Trump tariff conversation, but honestly, I think everyone's pretty calm and rational on that subject. And we've been able to get back to business and talk about cranes, which has been good. Speaking in terms of the regions, that's the beauty of Bauma. I'd love to know how many folks I've met from different countries. I must have met with people from 25 or 30 different countries this week, which makes it a lot of fun, and you really get a good feel for what's happening in those regions.
you seem to have a lot of customers from the US have come over as well. And I've seen quite a few around from Australia and
Yeah. Well, that's the beauty of Bauma. So in terms of the U.S. folks, I'd say to me, it seems about what we normally have. We have some really strong dealers that always help support us at these big events. So that's a big part of it. And the Australian contingency, the Borger family, they always bring a good big group. So here we can hear them, at least with my ears. For an accent, we can hear them from a mile away. But that's the beauty of Bauma. Spend the time with folks like that, because I don't get a chance to go to Australia very often. So
yes, that's one big advantage that people from all over the world do come to this show.
yeah, it's incredible. I mean, we've got 12 products on display and a plethora of aftermarket products and services that we're showing at the show. Also, we have a couple different simulators to try to get feedback from folks in terms of the feel of inside the cabs, particularly on the mobile cranes. The other thing I would add is a big thank you to our staff here, not just our employees, but the folks that help us with the booth, and our catering staff is top notch. So we really appreciate the support that they showed to us and our customers for the week. Makes a big difference, I think.
Okay, let's move on to the markets. What's happening geographically? Where are the hotspots? Why? What's happening in by crane type? Just mix all that up.
Yeah, so I'll try to remove the Trump tariffs and act like that never happened, because I think most of it will be negotiated away, except probably for the China piece. So my view, I was really beginning to get positive about the global market. Saudi Arabia has been extremely hot. They continue to do all kinds of huge projects in Saudi, but also now Dubai's got some big projects that are coming. So that's very exciting for our tower crane business, which we support mostly out of China, but also out of France. That space has been really good. Asia Pac itself has probably been the weakest market. We do a lot of business in Korea, but because of the presidential situation there, business has really been tight. But hopefully that gets resolved in the next couple months when they have the next election. But moving around the globe, I mean, when I look at the United States getting through the election, there's always the slowdown before the election. There were a lot of people in the crane industry that were very positive about Trump winning the election. And so I felt like we were starting to build some steam there. And then in Europe, again, this is what I was really looking forward to the show, having the infrastructure plan being rolled out by Germany was a big boost. And so the tower crane business is, we said on our fourth quarter earnings call, it started to bounce back some off a very low bottom, and we think that it'll gradually return. But big government changes like that makes a big difference. Not to mention there's a lot more infrastructure work being done, particularly in Europe and top, whether it's nuclear or offshore wind. And those big projects, like data centers, really help drive demand for bigger cranes. So that's one of the things that we've been working hard on with respect to the tower crane market.
Okay. By crane type, is there anything particular in terms of hotspots around the world that say crawler cranes are good there, or in addition to what you said about tower cranes?
Yeah, so I was going to go back to the tower cranes. With what they're building in the Middle East being so massive, there's a big push. So there's a big tower cranes that we always wanted to develop, but we really couldn't justify because there wasn't enough units sold per year. But given the market changes, now it's been a big push. We upgraded our Zhangjiang facility to handle such big equipment, and we launched 3 or 4 different big machines, which are most of them are already in the market. So that's been good. In terms of other hotspots, we always get the questions about the 8-axle. The world's worst secret is that we have 2 prototypes in Wilhelmshaven. We expect to launch those next year Con Expo, so that'll be good to get into the market.
What size will that be?
A 600-tonner.
Okay.
But it's too big to hide from the locals that come and pick up their cranes, so it's hilarious when it comes up. For years, everyone's been asking us to do this crane, and you'd love to have a quiet launch, but the reality is that everyone in the business already sort of knows that we're working on it. And we know there's other guys working on theirs too. So this tough machine that's so massive, it's hard to hide from everybody.
Oh, I was going to ask you about what's next from the 450 ton. Yeah. So it'll be 8 axles.
Yeah.
Any idea on the booms yet? Will it be one boom, a long boom, a short boom, 2?
Yeah, I'm not going to disclose any of those details.
Fair enough. Con Expo will be the launch.
Yeah, that's the expectation. And by then, we should have, I think, 5 prototypes built and testing in the PVC to proof out all the load charts.
Great. Okay. Similarly, with large tower cranes, you say, bigger than 64 tons luffers, or?
I think we'll see.
Yeah. Is there growing demand for?
Not yet, but I know that there's more and more discussions around some of these big projects, particularly in the Middle East, and we start to think of nuclear projects. Maybe that drives us in that direction. But I don't want to take a position on it just quite yet.
Sure. Market share globally. I'm interested just to know how it's changed since the pandemic, and maybe by crane type a little bit.
Yeah, so we don't disclose our market share per se, but I would say there's not been significant change up or down. Probably the biggest effect we've seen is because we're so strong in France, and the French tower crane market has been so slow. It probably changed some numbers just because of the math of the markets. But it's hard to say because Germany's market's been pretty tough too. So, but other than that, I would say no major changes.
And in terms of crane type, which types make up what proportion of your total? Can you give us an idea of that?
All the investors will be listening. We don't share that level of detail.
Okay. I don't think we've ever answered that before.
No, thinking about the market share questioning, I mean, we have gained up a couple points in Europe on the all-terrain business.
Okay.
That, I mean, typically market share moves slowly in the crane business. Everyone's a good competitor, so.
Yeah, I just wondered if the pandemic had been a sort of disruptor that had changed something that.
Yeah, it was a disruptor, but not to the dynamics no more.
Okay. I'm looking ahead a little bit then, I guess. What are the biggest threats to your market share or sales generally?
Well, for sure, it's inflation. I mean, that's always the biggest challenge that a capital goods company has when you have machines that cost millions of dollars. I don't feel like we've fully recovered from the last round of inflation. The good news is we've made a strong push into the aftermarket with our Crane 50 strategy. So that's helping us manage through some of the different challenges in the industry.
And is the used equipment value, at the end of the first 5 years or wherever you measure it, is that more or less of an issue these days? Is it going to become more important or less important? Do you think that the used value?
Yeah, I mean, already used values have been favorable. It will be interesting. You get a lot more Chinese cranes out in the marketplace. So in total, what does that do? It'll be interesting to see. But I think there's plenty of customers around the world who would like a 3-year-old or 4 or 5-year-old machine, sort of get the newest technology at a bit of a discount. So I think that they can continue to hold up, at least for Western cranes.
Recent acquisition by a major competitor, how do you think that's going to affect your business and the market?
Yeah, it's always difficult to predict how acquisitions play out, but they're a good company, and I'm sure that over the long term, they'll get through all the bumps in the road that come with an acquisition, and they'll be a good custodian of one of the core brands that's been in the business, or at least the business itself. So long term, I think it'll shuffle its own way out, but I don't think it, probably more of a financial subject than it is market or market share or, crane market itself.
But similarly, what types of crane would you like to have in your portfolio that you don't?
Yeah, well, the 8-axle 600-tonner AT is one that we definitely want to get in the portfolio. We will continuously launch cranes like we always had. Our biggest focus, what I want is more service work. So under Cranes Plus 50, we've actually doubled the number of field service techs. So we have nearly 500 field service techs globally now. Not many people realize how big Manitowoc really is in the aftermarket business. But to me, that's how we can differentiate ourselves. That's where we're working hard. We want to get closer to customers. We don't want to just sell them cranes and that's the end of the relationship. We've already learned a lot from the acquisitions we made of the old H&E crane business and the Aspen business. So I think there's a lot more opportunity for us to do a better job in terms of the cranes we develop, how we launch them, how we hand them over. Because every time you change the software, we went from ECOS to CCS. We had a lot of challenges because I don't think we had our arms around what it was really going to take to train people and get them comfortable with the new software, the new EN standards. We've got CCS 2.0 coming, so there'll be more work to do there. I think we're way more prepared today than we've ever been for changes like that. But yeah, that's my vision for the company is over time, most of our dealers had succession planning challenges. So just as we did with H&E, we'll fill in the gaps. So we're not trying to push any of our dealers out. We love our dealers, unfortunately. They can't live forever, and you have to make some decisions in terms of their own businesses. But we want to continue to grow our field service head population on our footprint globally. We're moving location in Australia right now to get into a bigger location so we could do a better job of supporting used trade-ins, rebuilds, repairs. But likewise, we have added a new location in Nashville, in South Carolina. We upgraded our facility in Phoenix. We upgraded a facility in Baton Rouge. We upgraded our facility in Paris. So we've moved to Maru, just outside of Paris, to support towers and mobiles. And we're in the process of adding a location in Poland. So we're very active on the aftermarket front.
That's interesting that you're bringing all that in-house and improving the backup. How much of that is a sustainability element as well in terms of service life extension?
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it. It also helps reduce the cyclicality of the crane business. Very difficult to manage our factories through the cycle. We're going through it right now in the European tower crane business. But frankly, having that aftermarket work has helped carry us through some of these difficult times so we can continue to invest in innovation.
And do you see, if you refurbish some mobile cranes, for example, do you have a sort of hierarchy of ABC type? So a brand new crane from the factory, then one that's 5 years old, or how does that work? Do they go to different markets?
Yeah, I mean, there's all sort of different versions of that. Just depending on where the crane's going to go. And actually, sometimes it comes down to who the crane operator is. Yeah, there's the new cranes, and reman typically is driven by accidents, unfortunately, or just someone's got their fleet's aged out. That's an opportunity to breathe some life back in those assets. So it's hard to say. It's not as if it's just a product offering of A, B, C, and D. It's more of okay, we've got new cranes. We continue to get them in the field. We'll do trade-ins. Sometimes we need to do some work on those cranes. Sometimes we don't. But I'd say it's more opportunistic or case-by-case scenario.
And are there still markets in the world where, for example, the wheeled mobile all-terrain needs to be introduced, perhaps with second-hand cranes to start with? Is there any new markets?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I wouldn't say that there's major change there. Probably more truck cranes from China. You're seeing them. I'd say that's a big change. For a long time, the Chinese truck crane was just in China, but now you see them all over the world, in South America and in the Middle East.
Yes, something. I don't know. You might already spoken about, but the truck cranes in the Middle East. Is that a market that you're involved in particularly?
Yeah, we have a private label relationship with Lugong, a very good partner. So again, a product. This is a market that we weren't participating in. It's a specialty type of crane for a specific application. So it helps service our customers. We've private labeled Grove truck crane with Lugong, where we sell in places like the Middle East and South America.
Okay.
So this is, again, us being very focused on trying to service the customer. Yeah. Putting that first, or historically, we would have probably not done something like that.
So does that mean you do the backup as well, and you keep all spare parts and things too?
Yep. We've been trained up on how to support those machines and have inventory where it's needed to help support the customer.
Is that a new thing? Is it something we should?
Yeah, we started it at the end of last year.
Okay. Anything else like that in the pipeline, you think?
Yeah, I mean, we're really pushing the team to be more entrepreneurial globally, so we start to see different ideas pop up. So there's certain regions of the world where we're selling wire rope for tower cranes, outrigger pads for all-terrain cranes, even the lighting that goes on the tower cranes. So I'd definitely say that we're taking a much broader view. Again, the whole focus is how do we service our customers. If you look at like in Phoenix, out of our MGX branch there, we've been long time provided field service tech to the mines. But given the capability of an all-terrain or crawler crane tech, they can support more than just that. So our contract actually is broader than that, and we're looking at some more opportunities at the mine. So again, we're taking a much broader view of how we service the customer and what that looks like. But the goal is, I always tell people, it's just like when I was a supervisor on the shop floor and how we worked with Fastenal. You're looking for someone to help make your life a little easier, and that's my view of how do we help the crane operators make the lines just a little bit easier. Running the depots cannot be an easy job.
Any plans for knuckle boom crates to sort of revive National? Or
no, I mean there's some very, very strong players in those spaces. I don't see us entering in that market. That being said, again, we have our acquisitions in the United States. We actually do a lot of work with Hi-Hub and Palfinger out of our location in Minnesota and Omaha. Those products go well when we go to service the utilities. So they want a boom truck, they might want a knuckle boom, so we're able to do the upfitting portion of it.
Emerging trends, what do you see in terms of products, fuel types, that kind of thing? Anywhere else that you might be?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the last bomb, there was all kinds of conversations of battery powered, the EV. I think we've all settled in at sort of the hybrid is probably the way to go. And if you look what we've got out here in the booth, our version of the hybrid also uses HPO, so we're really reducing our emissions. Ours, unlike the competition, can go all day long. So we took a bit of a gamble in terms of technology we went with. It might be a little more expensive, but in terms of the actual usage and application, I think it's going to bring great benefits to our customers. But that is a bit of a slow move because it's more costly. So that's the difficulty when we talk about EV. Folks want to get into it, but how do you get the rental rates to justify making a purchase?
I was wondering if it's a government requirement, for example, on some projects. Would they then be prepared to pay more for a rental, do you think?
We had a lot of those conversations this week. I think we'll know in the next 6 or 12 months if they're willing to pay the higher price. My guess is it'll come down to different countries and their commitment to sustainability.
Is there anything you'd like to say about the recent financial results for the whole of last year, and what you think might be coming up 25?
Yeah, I mean, we had huge benefits from the acquisitions, our continued growth in the aftermarket, but the tower free business really weighed heavily on us. As I said, we've continued to invest in innovation, probably spend more money than we normally would, and given the circumstances, but we're a strong believer what's coming, particularly on these big cranes and projects like the nuclear projects. We want to be positioned to capitalize on that when it comes. But it's been a bumpy road since the COVID days. I took over in August 2020, and it seems like every year we have some version of a crisis as we sit here with the Trump tariff situation. So depending on how that plays out, I really, entering the year, I thought, okay, the American business is starting to pick up. The tower crane business is starting to pick up. We're starting to gain more momentum. Some of our new all-terrain cranes, and as well as our aftermarket. So I was really optimistic as to where we could go. And it felt like maybe we were building where 25 would be a little bit better, and maybe 26, 27, things start to open up. But we'll have to wait a few months to see if that still holds true.
Thank you very much, Aaron.
Thank you very much, Alex.